All right, so let's keep going with other effects of the industrial revolutions, and now we're going to focus on demographic, as population, demographic shifts in the industrial revolution. So, as we mentioned before, the population growth is going to be a result of more food and better medicine. Both of these are going to increase in society. There's also going to be less mortality. That means less people are going to die because they're living longer. More better foods, healthier diets, that sort of stuff. There's also going to be less fertility. That means that the size of the family is going to reduce. That means that people are not going to have as many kids as they once did. One of the ways they're able to do this is through contraceptions. Contraceptions become more available, so people can now choose when and if they want to have kids. So, for example, we see the first condoms being developed during this time. And the as forms of contraception. Now, contraceptions have existed in world history, but they were never safe nor reliable. But the industrial ones are become more safe and reliable, more efficient. So less people are being less. Let me rephrase that. Even though the population is getting bigger and bigger, people are living longer lives. The size of the family is shrinking. Because remember, in the past, you needed a large family. You needed a bunch of kids to help you in the farm. And when you get old, those kids, the more you have, the more kids can help support you in your older age. But with the industrialization process, you don't need a large family to help you do your job because you work in a factory. So the smaller family, the better, because the less people you got to take care of. So we see a smaller size family than before, even though the population is growing more than ever before. All right, migrations. So urbanization, of course, is a type of migrations because people are moving from the rural to the urban. We're going to see that by the beginning of the 20th century, in the year 1900, more and more people are living in cities than ever before in world history. Right, and this is again a result of the Industrial Revolution, a result of industrialization and urbanization. Now, urbanization, of course, brought a lot of problems as well, because you have millions of people migrating to cities, which these cities weren't necessarily designed to house that many people. We also see, which causes a lot of overcrowding problems, and that overcrowding problems leads to a lot of unsanitary living conditions. So there's no sewer lines, there's no running water, there's no ventilation in housings. So you're going to be living in these what are known as tenement housings, basically like cramped apartments built very rapidly, where disease is going to spread super easily and people are going to get sick all the time, and there's no heating or cooling, so there's no AC, there's no heating, so it's not going to be a nice place to live. And of course they're going to be living in the poorest part of what they call the slums, right? The poorest part of the cities. And this is where a lot of the lower class, working class families are going to be living in. And now, on top of that, there's going to be a lot of pollution because there's no garbage pickup. There's no garbage man coming up to your house to collect your garbage twice a week. So there's going to be a lot of pollution, not only from the people, the city people, but from the factories. They're going to be polluting the air. They're going to be polluting the water supply. They're going to be polluting the soil. And again, there's no municipal city regulation of housing or of factories, or telling people what they can and cannot do. So not a very nice place to live. And in these urban cities, in these large cities, these factory cities, And they're going to be very overcrowded, and things are just going to get bad before they get any better. Now we also see a mass migration take place throughout the 1800s, where Europeans are going to migrate to the Americas. All right, they're going to go across the Atlantic. So why? Well, for one thing is that there's going to be a lot of overpopulation in Europe, right? We just mentioned how the population is going to increase. Well, Europe has a very limited amount of land, and therefore opportunities to own land. So a lot of Europeans are going to leave Europe in search for land and opportunities elsewhere. And where are they going to go? Well, they're going to go to the Americas. Many of them, most of them probably are going to go to North America, to the United States and Canada. Some are going to go to Latin America, to South America, to the Caribbean. Right, 50 million of them. So for one is that Europe has become overpopulated, so they have to go find somewhere else where they could live more comfortably, and the Americas will solve that problem for them. Remember that these people are going to be traveling on steamships, so there's not going to be a lot of so poor people that they need to do like indentured servitude, where they gotta sign a contract for 5 years to work to be able to get that ticket to sail across the ocean. Right, the cost of transportation has gone down enough that many of these people just buy a ticket and move to the Americas and start a new life for themselves. So many people, especially the poor, are going to leave Europe to avoid living in crappy working conditions. Some people, like the Irish, are going to leave because if not, they're going to die. Because in Ireland, there's a potato famine in 1840s, where all the crop of potatoes, potato being the number one food crop for Ireland, there's a disease that spreads amongst the crops, destroying the food supply. So millions of people, Irish people, are starving to death, literally starving to death. So they need to go elsewhere. So a lot of them are gonna come to North America, right? To places like Boston, where the Celtics, which is a Irish people, the Celtics are gonna live in. So Boston, New York, Philadelphia, the Northeast, right? The industrial Northeast is where a lot of these European immigrants are going to migrate to. Jewish people are going to migrate to North America as well. The same Jewish people who are avoiding the anti-Semitism persecution that they're facing in Eastern Europe and Russia. So they're going to migrate as well. So we're going to see a lot of English and Scottish and Irish and Germans and Jews and Italians and Polish and Czechs and Russians. They're all going to migrate over time into the 1800s, right, to the Americas, to North America. Now, this migration, this mass migration from Europe to the Americas, again, is going to solve a few problems. It's going to solve the overcrowded problems in Europe, and it's going to solve the fact that the United States, who is this new country, needs people and needs laborers. So the Americans are going to be very open to this migration because it's going to meet the demand that they have for laborers for all these new factories that they're opening up. Remember, the population of the United States was quite small in comparison to Europe. And they didn't have a native population to speak of because most of the Indians were being killed or moved elsewhere. The African population of slaves lived in the southern states, and they weren't going to be used for factories. So you need a new supply of factory workers, and that's where the immigrants kind of meet that supply. So it's a win-win for Europe, for America, and for the immigrants. Now, it's not to say that's the only migration that took place. Right? Chinese people are going to migrate to the western coast of the United States. Japanese are going to migrate there as well. And these people, a lot of them, they're going to work in construction, railroad construction. Because remember, this is the same time that the Trans-Pacific Railroad, the one that connects the Pacific coast to the Atlantic coast, the east to the west, right? That is going to be constructed, and Japanese and Chinese workers are going to migrate there to work. Now, a lot of these migrants, the Chinese ones, the Asian ones, many of them are going to come in as indentured servants because they're too poor to migrate here on their own, and so they have to sign up for those contracts. Some of these people are going to flee China and Japan because there's going to be a lot of political problems, a lot of rebellions and revolutions and uprisings that we're going to talk about in another chapter, especially China. China's going to have a lot of political problems in the 1800s. And those political problems are going to create economic hardships on people, forcing them to flee and find a position, opportunities elsewhere. So a lot of people are going to come to the United States looking for industrial work, but also a lot of people are going to move to South America. So Chinese and Japanese and Indians are going to move to South America, looking for agricultural work. A lot of Italians, for example, are going to move to Argentina looking for agricultural work. A lot of Indians are going to move to South America. Let me see if I can show you a quick map here. So in this country, where is it? Let me do a quick map. South America map. So in South America, there's these countries that no one really talks about. Right? These three. Guyana, Suriname, and French Guiana. And these three countries have, they're super, super poor, but they have a large population. I think it's Suriname and Guyana have a large population of people who speak an Indian language. Indian as in from India. And the reason is because millions of Indian workers came in, that the British sent from India, were sent here to South America, to one of these two countries, as indentured servants. And so that's another type of migration, right? And that was more like a forced migration. We also see that a lot of Indians are going to be sent to South Africa to work there, including Gandhi, the famous Indian revolutionary independence leader. Gandhi is going to live in South Africa for a long time as a worker. So a lot of people, again, from Europe making their way to the northeastern part of the United States. A lot of them are going to make their way into South America as well. A lot of the people from China and Japan are going to migrate to the western United States and parts of South America. People from India, all the way over here, they're going to migrate to South America as well. So there's going to be a lot of migrations. Most of them are going to be voluntary, that they want to leave, and but sometimes it's going to be coerced, or they're forced to leave because they don't have a choice in the matter. All right, so that is it for the migrations effects. See you next time when we talk about socialism. Socialism.